The question brought to the altar is this: YHWH, give us the latest Bible prophecy news. The first word drawn is Enoch chapter 48, verse 7. All who dwell on earth shall fall down and worship before him, and will praise and bless and celebrate with song YHWH of Spirits. That is not a headline about a nation or a calendar day. It is a prophetic scene of universal worship, praise, blessing, and song. The news is that the appointed horizon is worship before YHWH of Spirits. This is the first word, and it sets the key. Everything that follows is harmony around that key. The altar does not answer with the day's headlines. It answers with a vision that is older than the morning report and newer than the next tick of the clock. But this word does not permit a cheap triumph. It asks whether the ark has come into the camp. Revelation chapter 11, verse 19 shows the heavenly temple opened and the ark of the covenant appearing. Yet the camp that knew the ark was present still fell that day. So the word is not, the ark is here, therefore victory. It is, the ark is here, therefore consecration and covenant fidelity. Recognition is reverence. It is not leverage for direction. The ark is not a weapon. It is the sign of the covenant. The people who cheered its presence still fell because their hands were not clean. The camp that fell knew the ark was present, so presence alone is not direction. The heart of the word is a plea for covenant grace. Exodus chapter 34, verse 9 says, "If now I have found sacred grace in your sight, O Adonai, let my Adonai go among us, although this is an obstinate people, and forgive our depravity and sinfulness and take us for your covenant inheritance." That is the latest news. Grace sought for a stubborn people. The word answers that plea. Psalms chapter 5, verse 12 says, "YHWH will bless the covenant faithful and surround him with sacred favor as with a shield." And the word turns to the priesthood. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 9 says Levi has no part or priestly inheritance with his kin, because YHWH is his covenant inheritance. The priestly tribe owns no land. The Lord himself is the portion. The Levites have no fields so that the whole people may learn that the true inheritance is the Lord. This is not a private word for clergy. It is the shape of covenant standing for every soul. The covenant inheritance given to the Levites is a pattern of the inheritance given to all who are consecrated. Identity, inheritance, and priesthood are not separate channels. They are one call. The numerical layer confirms this convergence. Identity, inheritance, and priesthood fire together at nearly 29 standard deviations above the adjusted baseline. The polarity is affirmative. The global anomaly test gives a chance so small it reads as 1.5 times 10 to the minus 67, and the convergence index is complete across 6 channels. 58 direct textual hits anchor the reading in the words themselves. The data shows a statistically confirmed non-random pattern across multiple independent channels. It is strong evidence of pattern, not independent verification of any external event or date. The numbers do not speak instead of the text. They point back to the text. They survive correction for multiple comparisons, and they survive replication checks. The frame is the writings, the voice of liturgy and experience, not the news desk. But all of that only returns us to the words. The yes carries cautions, and they are not small print. Isaiah chapter 31, verse 1 pronounces woe on those who go down to Egypt for help, who stay on horses and trust in chariots because they are many, but do not look to the Holy One of Israel or inquire of YHWH. That woe speaks to the conflict reports from Lebanon, Gaza, the West Bank, Yemen, and the Strait. It does not name those events as prophecy fulfilled, and it does not predict their outcome. It speaks to the spirit beneath them. Do not trust in the many chariots. The word also warns against altars built beside the true altar, and against voices that teach the servants of YHWH to eat idol sacrifices. These are not afterthoughts. They are the guardrails inside the yes. The reports of war do not cancel the yes. They sharpen the call to covenant trust. The idol sacrifices and the false altar are named because the people of the covenant are prone to drift. The leadership and governance reports have no direct word in these verses. The text does not name rulers or treaties. It calls the people to the altar, not to the news cycle. The rare summer rains reported in Jerusalem and the Golan also have no direct support in the drawn text. That absence is itself a report. The word is not a running commentary on every headline. It is a word of covenant standing. Where the day brings negotiations and warnings, the text stays on its own ground, which is the altar and the priesthood and the inheritance of the people. The silence on governance is not a denial of the day. It is a boundary. The altar does not become a news desk. It remains a place of prayer. Where the text is silent, the interpreter must remain silent too. The word does keep returning to appointed seasons. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 2 says the appointed place is commissioned for sacred assembly and for YHWH's appointed seasons. That is not a calendar. It is a command to keep the sacred times. The word does not tell you when. It tells you how to wait, in sacred assembly, in offering, in covenant faithfulness. It repeats the command to be strong and to work because YHWH is with his people. The appointed season is not the clock. It is the meeting. The people are told to keep the feast, to bring the offering, to wait in sacred assembly. The feast is kept because the people belong to the king, not because the hour is known. That is how the prophetic word is received. The answer to the question is therefore yes. The latest Bible prophecy news is worship, covenant grace, and priestly inheritance. The horizon is universal praise before YHWH of Spirits. The present word is grace for an obstinate people and a shield for the covenant faithful. The warning is against trusting chariots. The proper place is between the porch and the altar, weeping and saying, "Spare your people, O YHWH." The word does not feed the war drum. It feeds the altar. It is a yes with a woe inside it, a yes that leads to weeping between the porch and the altar, not to triumphal announcements. It feeds the altar, not the war drum. That is the news. Firm word, nursing tone. The verses drawn in this altar of reception session were Enoch chapter 48, verse 7, Exodus chapter 34, verse 9, Psalms chapter 5, verse 12, Joshua chapter 21, verse 3, Isaiah chapter 31, verse 1, Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 9. This concludes today's interpretation at the altar of reception.